Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us and welcome to our Counterpoise podcast. Today we have a great topic in store for you all, but first let me introduce myself. I'm one of the co-hosts. My name is Samantha Adams, and I'm joined with my other two co-hosts. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, no problem, Sam. Thanks. My name is Malik Foster. I'm another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am one of your third and final hosts, Everett Stevenson. And we want to thank you guys for coming in, checking in, everyone who's seeing us on Facebook, YouTube, everything, IG. We appreciate all the love and support. This week, we have a great show on deck, just like every other week, in which we're looking forward to discussing who's on trial. And this trial in particular is for the officer, Derek Chauvin, who is on trial in the killing of George Floyd. So we have a few videos here momentarily that we're going to get into. But if you guys had any comments or anything that you guys want to talk about on this so far as an overview?
I think everybody in the world knows about George Floyd. And in case you don't, George Floyd he was in Minnesota, Black man, allegedly tried to buy some cigarettes with a counterfeit $20 bill. Police were called. There were 4 police officers involved in the incident, and he pretty much was suffocated when one of the officers decided it was a good idea to put his knee in the back of his neck for 9.5 minutes, or 9 minutes and 28 seconds or something like that, but just way too long, and he died. But I think everybody knows who George Floyd is. Everybody knows about the incident if they don't recognize his name. And this happened all on Memorial Day of last year. And he's on trial, I think, for like third degree murder and like first and second degree manslaughter. I could be wrong about the charges. And his trial has begun. And his trial has been very, very interesting to watch. I haven't been able to see everything because, I do have to go take care of my own clients, but I have been able to catch bits and pieces of it, and it's been very interesting to watch. It was second and third degree manslaughter. Sorry about that. And I believe there was one more charge, but I can't remember what it was. Either way, it's been interesting to watch and to listen to the testimony of some of the people that have, in fact, testified. One of the people, we have this thing that was posted by Laura Coates, where she talks about the people that have testified so far. They've all been impacted emotionally. If you guys can see, they have the 911 dispatcher, the MMA fighter, 4 children, an off-duty firefighter, and a store employee who offered to cover the $20 counterfeit money. So real quick, one thing that impacted me the most was the children. I did see one of the children testify. She was only like 9. But the entire trial has been pretty emotional for all of the witnesses. And I think I know we have some clips of some of the testimony. We're going to talk about it. We can just go ahead and jump into the first clip whenever you guys are ready.
Mr. McGunn, wait a minute.
I see it.
Oh my God. Mr. McGunn, wait a minute.
So within that clip, that was a clip of one of the first witnesses to the scene of the murder. And for anyone who is not familiar, Mr. Floyd's passing occurred in a sense in which, okay, 1 second here.
Yeah, I'll help you out there. His passing occurred not long thereafter. That gentleman, we're gonna try. You want to try to show that clip again? If for some reason we weren't able to see it, we could just hear it.
Okay.
But I'll just give a quick little setup, which is what I think you were trying to do. It's pretty much that clip. Here it is. This gentleman, he was one of the first people on the scene, and he was trying to do what he could to help without becoming a victim himself.
Oh my God. Mr. McGon, you need a minute.
So yeah, you guys can see like he was really, really impacted. You have an older Black gentleman who witnessed the man die. He watched him be murdered. And when you see other clips, you may hear his voice in the background where he's trying to talk to George Floyd himself. He's not really saying too much to the police, but he's trying to tell him to hang in there, you know? And that feeling of helplessness has got to be difficult because here you have people who are trying to tell the police to do the right thing. And the police are so focused on whatever it is that they're focused on, with whatever attitudes that they already have. They're just not doing the right thing, and it ended up costing George Floyd his life. And I think that's sad. You know, I think it's really, really sad. And I can't imagine the type of survivor's guilt any of them may have. You know what I mean?
I want to jump in on that because it's funny you mentioned that, because we have a tweet as well that here I'm gonna go ahead and put up on the screen, and it shows, like, you know, you mentioned survivor's guilt, but one of the things that I think that was readily available within excuse me, I'm gonna see if it pulls up within this tweet is that, you know, this officer has had a history of doing this. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It was one that happened, you know, years before, just recently. And so as we can see, even though this is stuff that was probably held out, as we know, from the trial because of the fact that it may not necessarily, one, it was not an arrest or a charge that he received for this. Therefore, it's not something they could use as a character evidence against him, due to the fact that he probably was acting his role as an officer and was not, you know, charged on that or brought up for charges in that offense. Therefore, it would paint him in the light or grant him in the light in which it would maybe, if they will, taint his character. But for those of us who also can take into consideration and be able to look at different situations and know, we can see that there's clearly a history here with him being overly aggressive or him using these type of tactics when trying to make an arrest or trying to apprehend a potential suspect. And that's why I think it's like funny that we said that, because I don't think that there's probably any survivor's remorse, because only due to the fact that maybe he may be one of the individuals who is on trial now and it took so far and now it's on the spotlight, maybe for that purpose. But I don't think it's something that, you know, that would have occurred or would not have occurred again if it wasn't for the fact that, you know, this received so much attention. And so that's why I think, like, you know, this is a trial that definitely is one that we would like to see. Again, this is someone who's getting brought up on a murder charge for an event that occurred while acting in that duty as an officer. So it is one that we definitely are, that's captivating the nation due to all of those aspects.
Yeah, I don't think that when I talk about survivor's guilt, though, I'm not talking about Derek Chauvin. I don't think he has any remorse for anything. I'm talking about the witnesses. And I'm talking about the PTSD that they probably suffer as a result of watching George Floyd die. And I feel one thing that I can agree with, well, I kind of agree with, well, I agree with a lot of the things that you said, but I think that as far as they're concerned, I think that because it's such a big case and big situation, that their emotions behind it have probably been amplified. Because remember, there was a point in time where you couldn't turn on the television, you couldn't turn on social media, you couldn't turn on anything without seeing George Floyd die over and over and over and over again. And I know for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know for me, I got to a point where I couldn't look at it anymore, to just keep watching this man die. I just, it just was hard to continue to watch that Black man die on TV for nothing. A $20 bill that could possibly be counterfeit. It hadn't even been confirmed. I think they did confirm that it wasn't, but the fact that at the time they thought it might have been, and he died for what? For that? Like, come on now, you got bigger and better fish to fry, and you just killed him out of that. Now I know that there's a lot more backstory towards it. There's a whole situation where they may have known each other before. George Floyd and Derek Chauvin from working different clubs, because George Floyd was doing security at a particular club, and they may have had run-ins in the past. But it's just sad. Like it's really unfortunate, and that man's emotions. And how emotionally he got on the stand. I mean, I just can't imagine what it must feel like to feel that helpless, to watch someone die slowly, and all you can do is try to convince somebody to be able to stop, just so that you're not next. I mean, that's got to be a god awful feeling to have. You know what I mean? Malik, what do you think? You've been kind of quiet. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just waiting for you guys to finish up and waiting for my opportunity to jump in there. Just real quick to touch on something that he said about the history of the officer, Derek Chauvin, having, a history of this. Honestly, if you take an even deeper dive, the history of the Minnesota Police Department has a history of this, doing these aggressive arrests, these force arrests. I think that's the term they use. I was reading an article this week about it where they were saying that even though Black people are only 20% of the city of Minnesota's population, they go through these force arrests, these aggressive arrests at a rate 7 times higher than their white counterparts. So there's historic and systemic racism throughout the Minnesota Police Department. So it's not just Derek Chauvin. He's not the only one. Another example is even the current police chief, I believe, of the Minnesota Police Department, he filed a lawsuit against the Minnesota Police Department as well. So that goes to show you that it's just a systemic racism problem. It is a big issue with that. Just going to your point, E, about the history of everything. And you already mentioned Derek Chauvin's record with that, so I don't need to go there. And to the grieving aspect of things that you mentioned, Sam, it is sad and unfortunate. And hopefully George Floyd's family gets the justice that they deserve. And the justice system actually works to the way the people thinks it should work. I think that's key here, because if it doesn't go out in their favor, if it doesn't go in the way that people want, I think we could foresee, some rioting, some bad stuff if it doesn't result in the maximum amount of charges that he can get, which is the second-degree murder in this case. That's what the prosecution is bringing forth. So that's my thoughts on that. Y'all got anything else on that?
No, I think that's everything. I think we want to go ahead and look to see, do we have the next clue queued up, you guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We can see it.
You recall,
Yeah,
dare you to touch me like that, I swear I'll slap the fuck out of both of you.
Yeah, I did. I meant it.
So again, sir, It's fair to say that you grew angrier and angrier.
No, I grew professional. I stayed in my body. You can't pay me out to be angry.
So, look, can I start, please, with this? So, his name is Donald Williams. Shout out to him, okay? And the reason why I say shout out to him is, first of all, Mr. Williams is a trained MMA fighter. He's been fighting for a long time. He has a lot of training. He's also trained many officers in the Minneapolis police force. And one of the things that the defense attorney, I mean, it's common practice in law to paint the victim out to be an aggressor, to make the witnesses out to be, bad people, things like that. The thing that bothers me, though, about what it is that this particular defense attorney is trying to do is he's trying to make Donald Williams be an angry Black man. And that bothers me, because one thing about stereotypes when it comes to Black folks is that we're angry. And do we have anger? Yes, but who doesn't? We're human. Everybody has the ability to be angry about something. And just because he's a Black man and he was in a stressful situation doesn't mean, and he made comments that may not have been favorable to Derek Chauvin, doesn't mean that he was an angry Black man. And the reason why I say shout out to him is because he said he became more and more professional. Because if he was angry, being a trained fighter, and he lost his cool, he easily could have put his hands on that officer, and we could be having a different story. This would be a different conversation. Things would have happened differently. You know what I'm saying? And so, and not only Derek Chauvin, he could have put his hands on Officer Tao and the other two police officers who were behind that truck. That the conversation would be very different. And I say shout out to him, because so many people don't understand that Black folks are not angry by nature, right? Life kind of makes them that way. And then on top of that, we're not always angry. Like, people don't just walk around pissed off, cussing everybody out, ready to be violent. Like, people don't just choose violence. Honestly, Black folks are nonviolent and fine. And of course, you're going to have a few bad apples out of the batch, but that doesn't go for just Black people. That goes for all people, right? And it frustrates me that that defense attorney was really trying to create that narrative that he's an angry Black man. And shout out to him for not allowing it.
I definitely want to go into that, because I think one of the best things that he said in that was, two things. The one was, I meant that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I stayed on what I said, and I meant every word of it. Please, I wish you would, like, you know what I'm saying? And then lastly, I think it was the thing where he said, I grew more and more professional. And I think, you set that up with the context of, this is a man who's an MMA fighter. This is an individual who was trained to be able to use defensive tactics and hands to administer, abuse and punishment on whoever his, opponent is. And for him to be enraged, maybe to, or triggered possibly by witnessing someone abuse their power, by witnessing someone be inhumane in regards to consideration of the actions in which they're taking, you can definitely say, or not even, inhumane, you know what I'm saying, would be the terms that I would like to use in that regards. But it also showed that, like, he was able to say, listen, I'm able to remain a professional, because it took if I was to slip up, if I was to get emotional, if I was to do anything, you know what I'm saying, I would have just reacted. But he didn't. And he wanted to let them know too, those was my choice of words. Those strong choice of words were my exact words that I wanted to let you know, because that's exactly how I feel. Because I'm likely sure at the moment, the officer probably was being aggressive with Mr. Floyd and probably saying some aggressive statements to him as well, and that beckoned that call back. So I think, it is a kudos to that, because I know, we've talked about this and we've had clips before, but like, it's a challenge sometimes every day, like, when you feel like, is this a moment in which you feel like, what, like, do I, go off on this situation, or is this something where I kind of like, hold on? And I think in that particular situation, watching someone lose their life, someone who maybe look like your brother, sister, cousin, or someone within your, community lose their life in injustice, in an unjust way, it's challenging and it's hard and it's probably trying on the soul everything that he knows, because you know what I'm saying, it went left. For him very quickly if he decided to move a different way. And also, like, within that regards, like, it beckons the question too, like, you know what I'm saying, is that the type of stuff that should occur? Like, should people just kind of sit there and watch, or should it be like a situation that it's like, man, like, it's a total injustice? Like, okay, you know what I'm saying, could Congress maybe make opportunities for, you know, when people are watching things to go wrong, you know what I'm saying, to say, hey, listen, you know, if there's a situation, because we have like citizens arrests, if you will, you know, is it possible for the citizens to do an arrest on an officer? You feel what I'm saying? You witness a person wrong.
One thing that you said about that, one thing that doesn't show in that clip is Donald Williams called the police on the police. Like, let's let that sink in for a second. He called the police on the police. He called them and was like, yo, these police are killing this man.
Right. That's crazy.
And nothing came of it. He didn't have to die like that.
Well, to go off of what, you know, you were saying, some of the things, I kind of, my thoughts from the video that we just watched was that society kind of teaches us, a lot of Black people, specifically Black men, to just not even defend themselves, like to be docile, like, oh, if you defend yourself, you're a threat, you're in the wrong, you're the aggressor, even if you don't instigate the situation. It's like, you know, they already know, these officers, they already know the laws are against us. And, you know, they're even taught and trained in some aspects, which is clearly proven because the FBI have proven that white supremacists have infiltrated all the police, law enforcement, and even the judicial system. So, like, the laws and the systems is against you. So it's an uphill battle. You know, we're taught, like, be docile, be passive, don't defend yourself, don't do anything because something bad is going to happen. But what we've come to realize, it doesn't matter what you do. You can literally be on the ground with your hands up and you still got shot. And that was a situation in Miami where the guy was helping a mentally challenged person, and he was a caretaker for a mentally challenged person, and they still shot him because he was a Black man. And I'm like, that's crazy. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't do anything, if you do something, you still can end up being shot and murdered, or something bad happening to you. So that's my thoughts on that. But to answer your question on it, can you citizen arrest a police officer? I don't know. I have to look at that.
Live, and I'm not sitting here advocating for like injustice or no, you know, anarchy or nothing. But I'm just simply saying, like, when we see injustices, and even if it's at the hands of individuals who
like, while they're on duty, I don't know. I would have to take a look at it.
Like, I don't think you can.
Not while they're on duty. I don't think you can.
Yeah, but man,
because I mean, like, because if you think about it, if that was the case, police would be getting citizen arrests left and right. I don't think that you can. And I think that goes to, like, I think it's like an unspoken rule. It also goes to like there are criminal aspects with that, right?
And plus, look at the law too, Sam.
But that's what I'm saying. If you interfere with a police officer acting within the confines of their job, you are committed.
I think the conversation can go, because now you're acting outside of the scope.
But hold on. Right. But hold on.
This is where it's like, you know what I'm saying? You should no longer have
let me finish what I'm
We're in the duty.
But hold on, let me finish what I'm saying though. If you interfere with the police officer while they're acting within the scope of their job, you're committing obstruction. And that's a crime. You see what I'm saying? It can be a misdemeanor, it could be a felony, just depending on to what degree that you're acting in that way. The problem that we run into is the fact that you have police officers who are not acting within the scope of their job, right? They end up arresting people, putting them in jail, and being accused of obstruction, and then it messes up these people's lives because at the end of the day, once you get there, it's like the police officer already starts off with a high level of credibility, as opposed to being on an even playing field with Joe Schmo, who's like, no, I did this because the police officer was functioning outside the scope of their job, and the police officer was like, no, he wasn't. He was interfering.
I also would just say too, I think it's more so because of the fact that the broad scope in which, and this is one of the reasons why we deal with the issue of police, not necessarily brutality, but also
qualified immunity.
It's like that fact that, you know what, in order to do the scope of your job, we give you almost like this carte blanche.
Carte blanche, yeah.
Yeah, where you kind of can go and, you know, act and move in a manner in which you deem necessary in order to, you know, right, do the job. So that's why it's like, well, what is the scope? You know what I'm saying? Because the scope can be me talking to you however I want to talk to you, doing, you know, treating you however I want to treat you in the moment, because I felt like that was fair. And that's the part where I feel like we have to really like get with, you know what I'm saying, Congress or, you know, our local officials, so that we can make it like, so it's like, you know what, you don't talk to other individuals within the community like this. So don't come here talking to me like that. Or you don't treat other individuals like that. So please don't treat me like, I understand that I might look like other individuals that you may, you know what I'm saying, have dealt with in the past, but please don't get me confused with.
You could even be an individual that you dealt with in the past. Just because somebody commits a crime back when they were 15 doesn't mean that they're going to do it when they're 37.
I'm sorry. Like you were saying, even if I did, it doesn't warrant me to be treated that way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You should be professional and be objective and do your job at each case that you go into and treat it that way. But, you know, that's not the way of the world, and that's why we get what we get. So I do want to bring it back because we do have another clip, another tweet that I wanted to. We have from Sean King. Are you guys able to see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay.
Police Supervisor Derek Chauvin just testified that Chauvin should have released his hold on George Floyd at least 5 minutes before he did. Said it should have been let up the moment George Floyd was handcuffed in complaint. I think he was complaining. Floyd was dead or unconscious the final 5 minutes.
Oh.
I mean, that's sad. It's disgusting and it's disgraceful, if you ask me. That's my personal opinion about it, and there's not much anybody could say to change my mind. You mean to tell me you put your knee on that man's neck until he died and left it there for another 5 minutes? Like, that means he was dead or at least unconscious 4 minutes in. He was unconscious with your knee on his neck longer than he was conscious with your knee on his neck. That's
Well, Sam, I think he was accomplishing what he wanted to accomplish, which was make sure, you know, his victim stayed down and wasn't going to get back up ever again. I mean, that's my personal opinion of it. Because, I mean, like, why do you, after a person's handcuffed and on the ground, you don't need to put your knee on their neck or do anything. But, you know, in the eyes of these white supremacists and these white supremacist supporters, right? Yeah, exactly. To your point, 4 officers, they feel like, you know, black men have superhuman strength and they can, like, I don't know, fly to Mars at any moment. Like, they make up a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense sometimes. I mean, just look at some of the examples that we have here in history, like Tamir Rice, 12-year-old boy. They just pulled up and shot at him and murdered him, and their excuse was like he looked all tall for his age. He's only 12. He was like 6'3" or whatever. I mean, he wasn't really 6'3", but he was tall for his age, so they thought he was a grown man with a gun. Like, they come up with any type of excuses, and even though the facts say otherwise, they'll find a way to scapegoat them because the system is just corrupt and against us, and it is currently still being exposed to this day. That it just gets more ridiculous by the day, by the week, month to month, all the time. So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And then here's another one from Sean King where he says, today paramedics confirmed that George Floyd died on the scene and was dead when police continued to keep him handcuffed with their knees and body weight on him. A paramedic says that it was him, not the police, who took the handcuffs off, and that the police never tried to help. I'm just going to let that sit for a second.
I mean, a murderer usually doesn't try to help a victim. I mean, that's
But
just how
you're correct. You're correct. But it's
like, why
you're
would they
absolutely
try to
correct. But it's also a police officer's job to render aid.
But
see,
they weren't acting as police officers in that moment.
But when I'm talking about when you get outside of the scope of your job, like you're gonna act like, oh, okay, well I did my job, then I got off my job, and I'm about to go back to doing my job. Like, no, you was
right. But that's just like Rashad Brooks, right? Rashad Brooks was the.
You know what I mean?
Like, that's just like Rashad Brooks. But that's just like Rashad Brooks, who the dude who got shot after he took the cop's taser and ran out here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It was the police officer's job to render aid after they shot him. They didn't. They left him there in the Wendy's parking lot. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. Like, when it says protect and serve, part of that servitude means rendering aid.
But you know what I mean? We ain't even gotta go there. We can go here. My man from Colorado got rendered. You know what I'm saying? Got service because he got. Didn't they bring him in?
You talking about Elijah McClain?
The shot. No, listen. No, I'm not talking about black people that passed. I'm talking about the shooter that was
in Colorado recently, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Alyssa.
Yeah. The one we talked about last week.
Oh, that's what I'm exactly. Yeah. So there's people who receive, you know what I'm saying, servicing whatever you were just referring to, but I think it determins again on the factors that, like you said, who are they valuing, what lives are they valuing, and which individuals are that. And so it's like, I think it behooves our people to be able to understand that when you're in these such situations, that you have to be aware, because there's a lot of times when you're dealing with it, you know, the biggest thing is to get home. You feel what I'm saying? That's the biggest thing, man.
Yeah. Let me make a quick comment that might be a little off topic. Well, I'm gonna bring it. We're gonna go right back into it. But one of the things that people have to understand when you talk about the Black Panther Party from the '60s, right? The Black Panther Party was a party of self-defense, and they were created to help protect their community from this very type of behavior from the police. So although their history hasn't effectively been told, and although they've been deemed to be terrorists, the truth is that they were created for the purpose of protecting their communities, not to be violent, but to be protective, for the simple fact that police were coming into the communities and just killing Black people and taking them to jail on these trumped up charges, right? So then you have this situation. George Floyd is not isolated. It ain't new. It's been going on for 100,000 years or whatever. It's been going on for quite some time. And the thing about it is, Will Smith said this, all this police brutality stuff is not anything new. It's just that it's being filmed. So now that we have social media and the world literally at our fingertips, people are able to say, I'm going to hit this button right here, and now everybody can see what you're doing, right? It's kind of lifting the shade up. And so with that being said, you know what I mean? People have to remember that's when you look at the civil rights movement, you're talking about the Black Panther Party, that's how and why they were created. But the good thing is you also have some people, some police as well, who don't go for that, who don't agree with that type of mentality and attitude. Case in point, we're about to show a video clip that goes right to that. You can go ahead and press play on that.
Based on your review of the body-worn camera footage, do you have an opinion as to when the restraint of Mr. Floyd should have ended in this encounter?
Yes.
What is it?
When Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers, they could have ended their restraint.
That was after he was handcuffed and on the ground and no longer resisting.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Based on your review of the body-worn camera footage.
So just to give a little context, this gentleman right here was Derek Chauvin's supervisor. His name was Derek Chauvin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right or wrong, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, but he was the supervisor. This guy's been a police officer for 27 years. Derek Chauvin was a police officer for 20 years. So let's just think about that. One of the clips that he put up talked about how, this wasn't Derek Chauvin's first time, right? We even talked about that just a few minutes ago. It wasn't his first time of behaving in this way and putting his knee in people's necks and all that, and for his supervisor to say, as soon as he was subdued, he didn't need to keep doing that. That was like literally within the first like minute. Because remember, he was like panicking and they put him on the ground. Once they put him on the ground and he was calm and he was trying to calm down, like what they don't people don't realize is the whole thing started off wrong. When the police approached George Floyd, they came with their gun out. It's gonna go all downhill from there. You already know it is. And police have to stop being so quick to grab their gun. I mean, I get the fact that they have to protect themselves, but you can't just walk up to somebody's car with your hand on your gun or with your gun out, and there's been no indicator or no indication that the person in that car is violent. I mean, I get the fact that you have to be careful. I do. I understand you have a dangerous job. Do I think that all police should be gone? Me personally, no. I believe that we need some form of policing. But the way that the system is has been created, and the way that it's set up now, it ain't it. Because these things could be completely avoided, and they're not. That coupled with the whole white supremacy that has infiltrated the law enforcement field.
Yeah, my thoughts are this. Basically, George Floyd was compliant once he was dead in the eyes of those officers, because there's so many on them. Like you said, Sam, they had guns drawn. They obviously had their intentions on ending his life from my perspective. And even if they didn't really give a crap about his life. He might as well have been the pavement. They were just taking a knee on, you know? So it's quite disgusting, but that's how these white supremacists think. They think they could just do whatever they want to Black people and other people that they hate. They thrive on the oppression. It benefits them, so that's what they're going to do and continue to do. And so until these officers get real punishment, I think we're going to continue to see these things. Hopefully this is different, even though the city of Minnesota has already paid out the family $27 million. Hopefully we can see Derek Chauvin actually get, the maximum amount of sentencing. Because every time...
Before you press play, I have a quick question. Have either of you heard of what the witnesses get? Like, you have all those people that witnessed the police officer Derek Chauvin murder George Floyd.
You have to have a relationship to the person getting murdered.
Right, I hear that. I hear that. But I mean, what do they get though? Like, and I'm not posing it. I'm not talking about from a legal place. I'm just mean in general. Like, what do they get out of this whole situation besides trauma? You know what I'm saying?
Some of the witnesses want justice, on behalf of the family. So they're going to do that. Like, a lot of people are moral, upstanding citizens, and they want to do the right thing. Not everybody's a white supremacist murderer. So that's what they get, like if Derek Chauvin gets the maximum amount of charges, they'll feel that them actually taking the witness stand and going through it is helping the system and helping achieving justice. And that can even propel them. Like, they're going to go on interviews. People are going to look at them like heroes and stuff like that, So that's something that people would glad to do,
This whole situation, just everybody loses. But go ahead. You can go ahead and press play unless you have something.
Yeah, it's a little long, but
Yeah.
You can cut it. Yeah, you can go ahead and start it. I was just saying, if you want, you can cut it short once you feel like hit the point.
The Derek Chauvin trial. Christopher Martin, the former clerk at Cup Foods, revealing his regrets, his hopes for George Floyd's children, and his message now for Derek Chauvin. Our Kenneth Moulton with the story for us. Kenneth, good morning.
Good morning, TJ. Every bystander who witnessed George Floyd's death appeared to still be traumatized as they testified in court this week. For Christopher Martin, he spent the past 10 months coping with what he saw and asking himself if he should have done something differently.
There was so much pain and hurt that followed that was unneeded.
This morning, the emotions still raw for Christopher Martin.
After this whole trial, whether or not he's locked up, George Floyd is no longer here.
The 19-year-old speaking for the first time since his powerful testimony during Derek Chauvin's murder trial.
He seemed very friendly, approachable. He was talkative. He seemed to just be having average Memorial Day, just living his life. But
going into his character.
store clerk seen in surveillance video interacting with George Floyd before his deadly police encounter, selling him a pack of cigarettes. The clerk says the $20 bill Floyd used was fake, and after Martin alerted his manager,
just trying to get his money,
he called.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief. Thank you.
I mean, and then you got to remember too, like, you know, what do you think he probably was feeling like as he called on, you know,
Martin
Mr.
seen
Floyd.
on camera pacing, hands on his head. As he
Pause it for a second.
Not only am I like,
I think that, you know, what to answer that question here, I think initially he probably felt like he was just doing his job. You know what I mean? Just doing his job, alerting his manager, you know, and then him offering to pay it. You know what I'm saying? I don't see anything wrong with that either. Excuse me. Sorry, my dog wanted to join in the conversation. You know, but then to just watch it just escalate to that level, I'm pretty sure there's a whole lot of guilt. He might feel the weight of the world because, you know, it all started with him, right? He's the one that alerted his boss. And it's almost like hindsight being 2020. Had I known that this was going to happen like that, I probably wouldn't even said nothing to my boss. I would have just let him take the daggone cigarettes, and I would have just switched out the $20 myself. You know, I'm sure those kinds of ideas go through his mind because George Floyd isn't here anymore.
Or he could have just waited, like, till the end of the day. He didn't have to alert right away or something like that. Like,
right.
You know, work at retail. I've worked retail in the past. Like,
so have I, yeah.
You encounter some of that stuff, you kind of like, you don't do it like, oh, that person right there just gave me a fake 20, because like you don't know what that person has. Are they crazy or what? Like, right. Or what kind of situation? So you just wait it out and just let them know, like, look, this was a counter 20. I'm trying to protect myself. Like, I'm not trying to steal from you guys. First of all, this person gave me the 20. I marked it down, and this is the receipt, the copy of the receipt of the person who did it. So. That's how I approach it.
You post up a sign, tell the person don't come back, things like that, you know. And then it's $20.
It's just $20.
Like it's not like it was $1,000. $20.
I just
no one even brings
y'all. Everybody cash at me 20 real quick.
I don't even think anybody brings those type of cases to court anymore. I mean, it's just too expensive. No one's
$20.
I mean, sometimes
bring a
$20 claim to court.
It's a misdemeanor, but. I mean, $20.
I mean, yeah, if it's your fine, but you're not gonna sue somebody for $20. Like, come on.
I had a client yesterday who was in jail for stealing $50 from his mom. You know what I'm saying? It happens, but at the end of the day,
that's still more than 20.
It's still more than 20. It's still,
it could be stuff like that. But it's usually family members or relatives. Like they just so angry.
Go ahead and finish the rest of this clip real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The big domino that fell, and then now all the small dominoes are just scattered.
Martin doesn't believe
I don't know about that big domino part.
It's still there.
Since I've testified, for the most part, it's been extremely positive and extremely encouraging.
As the world reacted to George Floyd's death, the teen says he thought about Floyd's children.
I know what it's like to grow up in an African-American household without a father. I just hope and pray that George's daughters know that they can do it, and it's possible to do it, to make it, and to be successful. Even if your father is no longer with you.
And his message for the former Minneapolis police officer now on trial.
The one thing I would say to Derek Chauvin is justice will be served.
You sure?
Really
I don't know why he's so confident.
More. The young man says he has a lot of support, and he no longer works at the store as he tries to move forward.
I don't know. They already paid the family like so much money. I don't know.
Robert.
So saying justice will be served. I mean, I get it. That's an optimistic point of view.
Yeah, that's the cliche to say. Like justice will be served if he gets the maximum sentence or life in jail.
That's like, how about if he's convicted at all? Right. Like we gotta hope he's convicted.
He needs to get the most. You know, he might be convicted of like manslaughter, for example. You know, and it's like, wow,
like 3 years or something, right? So, you know, it's you know, the jury makeup, I think it's like 2 black men, 3 black women, and I don't remember the breakdown between the white folks or if there are even any other nationalities of people, whether there are any Hispanic people or Asian people or whatever. I don't know. I just know that we've been down this road before where, you know, we all are expecting justice and there's no justice. And it's not even like, and I mean that even when it's not related to race, right? Like, look at Casey Anthony. We all knew that lady was going to jail for killing her baby, but she's still wandering around Florida somewhere. Same thing.
Did we? We thought she might go. She seemed.
Just was like, oh yeah, she killed her baby. She going to jail. And then they were like, not guilty. And it was like, but then also too, George Zimmerman, when he killed Trayvon Martin, was like, come on now. You hear him kill the boy on the daggone thing. That's the thing about.
I think that's because, you know, we've seen so many injustices within this world and over, even when they do bring the trials, you know, over and over. So, you know, this is maybe one time where we might be able to see if the public, in regards to the jury, try to set the tone for, you know, condemning these behaviors. And maybe that might be my closing thoughts on things or whatever. There's that, you know, maybe this might be the spark that I think would bring about the change. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we get this jury to do something. Maybe, you know what I'm saying, the state decides to fight this case. Maybe it goes up to the Supreme Court, you know what I'm saying? And then we finally maybe see, you know, the courts come up with some type of ruling on limiting in which actions in which death occurs and having liability upon, you know, an officer, because for so long we've, you know, they've had like that a government immunity in the sense of to be able to do what they need for the general welfare of the public. It allows them to kind of act in manners that we may look at as aggressive or seeming as targeting and things of that nature, but to them, they want to claim it's justified by being actions that's needed in order to properly perform their job. But I definitely think that there's something that should be addressed rather soon. I would love to see how the people in Minnesota does with this. I hope they just do the right thing to try to set the tone for the rest of the nation, and maybe even for Congress and or, you know, the Supreme Court to if this gets challenged to address these issues as we kind of can see these things go away. Because I'm going to say this last little thing real fast in closing. One of the things that I have been seeing spur from this is states start to create more laws for the protests that spurred under there. And in the state that I'm in Florida in particular, was one state that were looking to make, you know, protesting type laws or more laws against that due to the type of activity that we've seen. And I think it's, for my time, it was one of the most pivotal moments watching how after Mr. Floyd's death occurred, nationwide, everybody was like, "Oh no, we going
worldwide."
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was shut down
worldwide.
It was like, yo,
because remember they was tearing down statues in Europe.
They painting the walls here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was on. Like lit. They shut down. I'm here in Miami. They shut down the streets. I think at one point they shut down the freeway. Like, you know, like I seen. You know what I'm saying? It showed like helicopters flying through, like, you know, city plates coming in, like they breaking, like it was like, man, it was crazy. Like
it was.
You know, again, out here they had like a McDuffie roar, but that's some other stuff. But riots rather. So I know that that's something that our city, this city in particular, has dealt with. So they were ready to kind of be more along the lines of trying to, like, you know, stay and keep these crowds in order and all of this other stuff. So I just want to say within closing again that, you know, hopefully that we can get some answers and some justice in this case, and that this stuff can spur and bring on change nationwide.
Yeah, a couple of things. One I was going to say is the thing about the OJ case that was so pivotal is the fact that regardless if you believe that he did it or not, him being found not guilty was more like, finally somebody got away with it. You know what I mean? Finally somebody got away with it.
Get away with what? He didn't do it.
Okay, but I'm just saying, finally somebody got away, regardless if you believe he did it or not. But know what I'm saying?
Don't fit. You must have quit.
Finally, they didn't nail the black man to the wall. They ended up doing it later.
Well, they solved that problem.
Right. That's what I said. They did it later.
On that one, yeah, like finally.
But in that initial trial, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because Johnny Cochran got up there and he did his thing. But, you know, as it relates to those laws, you remember Atlanta is like the home of the civil rights movement, right? So, you know, there's all kinds of stuff going on down here. And then when Rayshard Brooks was murdered, it was doing the same stuff here, shutting down highways and byways. And plus, you know, we still got a whole bunch of Jim Crow. You know, we talked about this last week with what the governor's doing with the voter suppression stuff. Like, people are still out there protesting still, and I'm not knocking it. I'm actually proud of them. I have some friends that and former coworkers, things like that, that are out there in the streets, really doing God's work to try to make sure we get equal treatment. As it relates to this case, you know, to anybody, any of our viewers who are not Black and don't understand why so many Black people are pessimistic about this type of a case, it's because we've seen it before. And we didn't just see it once, we've seen it over and over and over again. Look at Rodney King. There was a whole video of them whooping his ass. Excuse my language, but they were beating the brakes off of that dude, and all of those police officers were found not guilty. Michael Brown, we could just go name after name. Philando Castile. There's thousands of names of people who have been brutalized by the police over time, and nothing has come of it. You know what I'm saying? And even if you want to start talking about cases that happened without the police and people still were being vindicated, even think about the case of Emmett Till. Still, the murderer never caught. You know what I'm saying? The lady who lied about him, I think she just recently died. Everybody just been out here living their life, you know? And so that's where that skepticism and that's where that skepticism comes from. So in my closing thought, first of all, I'm glad that they brought charges, right? And the fact that we're in a trial, I believe he just needs to take a plea and keep it pushing. But cool, if he want to go to trial, he can go to trial. I hope he blows trial. As a defense attorney, I'm probably not supposed to say that, but I watched them murder that Black man on TV, and I didn't like it. It made me feel away, you know, all for something that didn't need to happen. You know, it didn't need to happen. There are 1,000 different ways that could have went, and he could be alive. He could have even went to jail, even if it was unjust. You know, you still deal with that, but at least that man would have been alive. And you left his children fatherless, his family, brothers without a brother. You know what I'm saying? You left his family with a void. And so to be so arrogant as to say, I'm not guilty, when everybody watched you do it, it's frustrating. And so I commend every single witness, especially even the little kids too. You know what I'm saying? I commend each and every one of them for getting up on there and telling their story, because being a witness to a crime is not an easy thing to do. It's very hard. It's very daunting. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking. You have people asking you all these questions about things that you might not necessarily remember all the details to. They're testing your memory. They're testing your ability to be able to be honest. They're in your integrity and things like that. And it can be very challenging. So I commend each and every single one of them, no matter what the outcome is. And I just pray for George Floyd's family and friends and the people that loved and cared about him. And I also pray for everybody that's been affected by it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Derek Chauvin needs to burn in hell or anything like that, even though I know that there are people out there that subscribe to that, you know, those types of thoughts. But I do believe that justice should be served, and I hope that it is, although I'm cautiously optimistic. And that's my final thought.
Yeah, my final thoughts about it is that I hope that we don't see, you know, history repeats itself, even though I'm pretty sure we will. I hope things change, you know. I hope it doesn't go the way I think it's going to go, where, you know, he may get some charges, but it's going to be something light, you know. Maybe he was grossly negligent, whatever. We're going to give him a little manslaughter charge. We're not going to give him the second-degree murder charge, the maximum charge that was presented. They never do it. I mean, they never do it. I don't know why, but they don't. It doesn't matter what the police officer does. So we need to get rid of that standard. And I think it's up to the people at a certain point. Like we've seen way too many of these cases. So we got to go to those Democrats that always want our votes. President Biden, Kamala Harris, all you senators, all you House of Representatives, all you city officials. We need to get some legislations to protect us as people against these white supremacists and against these so-called law enforcement officers and any law officials, all the legal and judicial people. We need some laws to protect us. So the legislation needs to look at drafting legislation across the board, state, city, maybe federal wide, and helping out and assisting with this and taking a real look at the law enforcement system across the board. Like maybe need like some federal stuff to help, like not just the states. Like, look, this is what you're gonna get federally if you do this stuff. Because we can't leave it up to the states, because this is happening in all states, all across the country. It don't matter where you're at, what city, what state. So we're gonna need to look at like some federal type of legislation. So Joe Biden, the ball's in your court. You mentioned that you can't win. You couldn't have won the backbone of the Democratic parties, black people, all this other stuff. So it's time for you to show it. It's time for you to put in some work, put that old hand to the paper, and draft up some legislation. You got the Senate and House on your side, so there's no excuses. There's no, the Republicans stopped us. Well, if they're stopping us, they need to go too. The Republicans shouldn't get no black votes. They shouldn't get anybody's votes. If y'all cool with murder, y'all don't deserve our business. Y'all don't deserve anything. So it's like the people need to really take a stand and get on code with this kind of stuff, because it's for the children, it's for the future. So I mean, if we keep allowing it to happen, it's going to keep happening. So people need to get with the program and start defending themselves and stop being like, well, this is a system. It doesn't happen to me. It can happen to you any day. So you can't ignore it. You have to be a little bit active as you see it, or with your with the politics. But yep, that's all I have. You got anything?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody, thank you guys for checking out the show. You already know what's coming. Like, follow, subscribe, all of our channels. Check us out, or not channels, our Insta socials. You can find us on Instagram at Counterpoise Podcast. You can find us on YouTube at the Counterpoise Podcast. You can find us on Facebook as well, the page and the person. We are moving. And we have also our own personals. Mine is that guy 2104 on IG, Clubhouse, Snap, anything that's I'm on. I think I might be on Twitter soon. So thank you guys for following. Again, thank you guys for looking out, subscribing. Appreciate it. And anybody else?
Yeah, so I'm Samantha Adams on Samantha Adams -ESQ on Facebook, and I am Samantha Renee Samantha Renee 77 _ESQ on IG. And again, like just to echo what he said, make sure you check us out on Facebook, IG, and YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Counterpoise Podcast. This will be posted on YouTube afterwards. We go live every week, and then we post it on YouTube for all the people that don't get a chance to see us live. So please, again, just like he said, like, follow, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend, all that good stuff. That's what I got. Oh, one last thing. Wednesdays, 8:00. We got What's Up Wednesdays at 8:00 on IG Live. And believe you me, we are also working on trying to get this podcast on all of the platforms to stream at the same time. So make sure you check us out. And then if you're unable to catch us on What's Up Wednesdays, we also post it to our IGTV page. So check us out.
And let us know
You can follow me at what are you saying, E?
Oh, I'm sorry, Malik. I was just saying that's for the people to let us know, on Wednesdays, whoever, just tap in with us. Let us know what you're thinking, what you got going on in your mind. Bring it to us. We all can sit down and chop it up. 4 heads, 3 heads, however many heads is better than just one. So, we're stronger than divided, so.
Well, I don't have too much time left, but just follow me at Malik M. Foster, and make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and also if you guys want us to actually talk about something, just comment or shoot us a DM on Instagram at Counterpoise Podcast. So we gotta get out of here because our hour is up. Let's get out of here, guys.
It is. All right, bye, y'all.
Peace.